So we'd like to invite to the stage participants of the plenary panel discussion of the Eastern Economic Forum, President and Chairman of the Board of Directors of Sberbank, German Graf, the Minister of the Russian Federation for the Development of Far East, Alexander Galushka, Chairman of the Board of Directors of DP World, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulayem, President of Joint Stock Company Russian Railways, Oleg Belozerov, Director General and Chairman of the Board of Sibur, Dmitry Konov, Khabarovsk Region Governor Vyacheslav Shport, Executive Director of Global Competitiveness Federation Council, Roberto Alvarez, Good morning, dear colleagues. 4 hours of 4 in the morning back in Moscow, and we're talking about investments, how to attract them. I would like to greet all the colleagues here, this wonderful platform in the Far East Federal University, in this wonderful venue. And before we start our discussion, I would like to put my first question to the person who's sitting here with us, Igor Shuvalov, Deputy Prime Minister. He has been quite active here in Far East. He spent several years of his life to make sure that Ruski Island becomes what it is right now. As I opened my window here on the campus, I saw the wonderful embankment, brightly lit university, and I had this feeling that I am in one of those largest cities in the world. And the level, the way it is done here, it's very impressive. And I know that also Igor's his eldest son, he served in the army here. He was a SEAL, and so he has a lot of connections with this land. So can you share with us your emotions? So what do you feel about Far East, about Vladivostok, about this Ruski Island? What kind of feelings all of that provoking you? Good morning. Thank you, German Oskarovich, for these words. I would like to respond later after you are done with the plenary panel discussion. But to tell you the truth, I have many positive feelings, of course, not only about Far East, as we call it traditionally in Russia, but also northern part of Far East is called extreme north. There are unique parts in our country, and this part of our country is also unique. Vladivostok is a wonderful city in itself, and people who live here, people who live in Far East, are very special people. And I remember elections back in 2011, and scientists tell us that people who live here, who call themselves Russians, their mentality and their behavior are quite different from those who live in other regions of Russia, like in Central Russia, they, for some of their ancestors were explorers, they moved here, so they perceive life differently here compared to Central Russia. And main capital here is people. And the president spoke about opportunities here, about industries and resources, but the main resource, the main richness here, it is people. And it's the main capital of this land. And speaking of negative aspects here, most likely I regret that these riches, natural resources and human resources, do not reach the growth rates, the development rates which this region deserves. And thanks to the work of the government and local governments, I think that all of us, hopefully we will wake up one day and evaluate and appreciate the riches of this country better. Some people think, well, Moscow and St. Petersburg provide more opportunities, but in fact, there are many more opportunities here. And where you have agriculture, you have intellectual capacities, Academy of Sciences, any area, no matter what it is, like solars, like Vladimir from Solar said, even automaking, it is here. It has been developed so drastically, but also like in St. Petersburg and in other parts of the country. But here they started with the training center, so whatever you do, you can achieve great success, unprecedented success. But we still perceive this land by our mentality, and we still do not perceive it, appreciate its potential. So we need to open our eyes to see all of that. Igor Ivanovich, thank you for that. Thank you for sharing your feelings with us, because without those feelings, it's impossible to look at this country, Sakhalin, Kamchatka, Primorye, these wonderful places, Khabarovsk region, Blagoveshchensk, those are wonderful territories. They're not in such a great shape as Vladivostok. After the Russian Federation invested quite a lot of funds here. But today we'll be talking about the fact that a new time has come for this region. Recently, the government paid a lot of attention to the development of these territories. And what I have seen, what I have felt in the last 2 days, is I see there's no indifference. People take it to their heart when they were preparing for the Eastern Economic Forum, overcoming difficulties, etc. And the efforts of these people, even though there was a lot of criticism and difficulties. We have a large auditorium here. We have many investors in the room. One of the key persons who invested a lot of his own efforts and health to develop opportunities in Far East is the minister, Mr. Galushka, Minister for the Development of Far East. For a long time he was a businessman, he headed a business association, and he was lucky to see opportunities. He was creating opportunities. He saw the business from the other side, and now he is in the government. So I would like him to be the first speaker. And the goal of our discussion today is to give a better idea about new opportunities to work in Far East, how you can make money here, how you make it more comfortable for investors so they could work here in this territory. And maybe Alexander will give an introductory speech, so we would be on the same page and would have a good picture what Far East is like today and what opportunities it will have in the nearest future. Thank you. Can I have the presentation on the screen, please? Dear colleagues, I will come out here, if you do not mind, to talk to you and to show slides. So what can we say about the large potential of Far East? We can say that 81% of diamonds in Asia-Pacific regions are in our Far East and Siberia. 85% of forest, 37% of potable water, fresh water, 1/3 of gold, 27% of gas and oil. These are the resources of Far East and Siberia compared to Asia-Pacific region. We can say, you can see it on the next slide, transit possibilities of our region in Russia. We connect Europe and Asia because we are a Eurasian country. Large economies of Asia and Europe and Russia is in between them. Northern maritime route, our railways, our transport corridors, but all the same could have been shown to you 10 or 15 years ago. I could have said the same thing. Can I have the next slide, please? The main issue today, why, like Igor Ivanovich said, this rich potential, how come it hasn't been used to such an extent before? As we want to see it, to see this happening. We all studied physics in the school. We heard about potential energy, there's kinetic energy, and so potential energy becomes kinetic energy if an effort is applied, or it can't stay there, it just can be potential energy, that's it, it's not realized. To achieve success, to achieve results, so that our Far East would develop, first of all, we need to focus on those conditions for development, investment conditions, business conditions, which are created here by the Russian Federation, by the Russian government in these regions. At the same time, what have we done in recent times? We have ensured low tax burden, low taxes, simplified administrative procedure, low costs, and we believe that the potential that we have here and with favorable investment climate, it's a formula of success. It's a success formula. This is what investors need to have capitalization, to have profit. Speaking specifically, today in Far East, priority development territories, Freeport of Vladivostok, provides competitive level of fiscal burden. Only two taxes are provided: corporate profit tax and insurance contributions from salaries, from wages. And so we provide preferences for those, if you compare those figures to competing countries here, you can see what the difference is. Then quick administrative barriers. Quick administrative procedures, to get a permit for construction, to get an electric supply, to customs clearance. You have direct comparisons with our competing countries. Next slide. Costs. Electric power price, natural gas price, technical water price, and on and on. After the change of the ruble exchange rate, so in addition, we are very competitive. I would like to thank our intellectual partner, strategy partners group that helped us come up with this international comparison on those items. What helps us achieve these results? The Russian government over the last year developed a new set of tools to develop Far East. Priority development territories, Vladivostok Freeport, infrastructural support for large investment projects, funding from the Fund for Far East development. Priority development territories. That's a large, as Dmitry Medvedev stated, it's a large innovation, it's a major innovation. This law takes 150 pages. We would like to share with you the essence of this law. It lowers risks and increases profitability, returns of investments in Far East. Some key points of this law: one-stop shop for investors. No checks from any supervisory bodies without approval from the Ministry for the Development of Far East. We had a practical experiment on that when checks with on SMEs were done only with the agreement of Procurator's Office, so their number decreased drastically. And I would like to assure you that as the head of the Ministry for the Development of Far East, we will look at this very carefully. So if you want to run those audits or checks, that should be justified. Also, managing company created by the Russian government, it can file lawsuits to protect investors. If investors face problems with some government authorities stand in the way, so the government, the management company will take it to the court to defend interests of the investor. Then we have infrastructure in place. During the first 5 years of the investment project, profit tax does not apply, property tax does not apply, insurance contributions instead of 30%, it's 7.6% for the first 10 years of the investment project, zero VAT for imports, 60% discount for land lease, and preferential rates for mineral extraction tax. All of that is in the law on priority development territories. Next slide, please. Freeport Vladivostok. A lot has been said about the potential of the southern region in Far East. The President of the Russian Federation mentioned that we have such large economies next door, China, Japan, Korea, and it is very important for the potential that we have here, the transit, logistical potential, human potential. The law that was adopted by Russia on July 13th, it comes into force in December. In over a month, it gives an opportunity to businessmen to cross border around the clock, export, import without any delays, electronically, one supervising body instead of multiple controlling bodies when you cross the border, free customs zone, one management port organization. And Mr. Trutnev is overseeing all of that. Investor protection measures, tax breaks, tax preferences in priority development territories, and 8-day visa to any foreign citizen that travels to Russia via Freeport of Vladivostok. If you fly to Kemichi Airport, get your visa. The next product which we offer to investors is infrastructural target support of investment projects. We have many resources, it has been already mentioned, but infrastructure is lacking. In Far East, we see this phenomenon happening when we lack specific targeted infrastructure in a specific place. The Russian government has created a special system to support such projects. The first 6 projects have been selected, and from the budget we allocate funds to any investors. If they meet our criteria, and I'll talk about them later, they get free subsidies from the budget to create necessary infrastructure, the exact infrastructure they need. The first 6 projects are case in point. Some projects lack railroads or grids Others lack motor roads or social infrastructure, etc., etc. So we are there to help you to launch them. Next slide. The system is transparent. 3 criteria approved by the government: added value, private investments alongside budgets, and taxes for private investments. So projects that have greater added value, larger private investments to budget, compared to budget and taxes, so they will get support. It's a transparent mechanism. We had a first tour of selection, and there were no problems from the part of the investors. They were happy. Fund for the Development of Far East is organized to co-fund projects of investors to provide funds at the interest rate of 10.5% annually to invest into infrastructure, to create new productions. The fund is operational. The first 3 projects have been already funded from this foundation, and the capital will be replenished with tax revenues, etc.
So, within last year, we have created centers and areas of development in the Far East. I mean, 9 territories of priority development. Currently, we have 6 investment projects supported by the state, which are already underway. There are 3 projects which are being financed by the Foundation for Far East Development. It also includes free port of Vladivostok, which has an impact on all ports in the area. Apart from this, we have an organization which is responsible for taking all these actions. And this is not only the Ministry for Far East Development. We have created an entire ecosystem, like the Far East Development Corporation, which manages and sets targets for the priority development territories. They are one point of service for all investors. And this organization stands in court to defend investor interests. And it has been set up. The agency has been set up by the government of the Russian Federation, and it is charged with responsibility to provide up-to-date information to investors about investment opportunities which are open in the Far East. It is also about development of Far Eastern personnel. We know that in a certain way, lack of people is a bottleneck for a number of projects. And these are the issues which we are trying to eliminate. We are in the very beginning of this way, and all these things which have been mentioned, they've taken shape just within the last year. But we're not planning to stop until we finish. We have already set up 9 priority development territories, and we already have initial investors to fund the first projects. But there is a lot of free space left for other investors, as we are planning to create other territories of priority development. We are planning to expand our portfolio of investment projects, which will enjoy support from the government. It has just been mentioned by the President of the Russian Federation. Foundation for Far Eastern Development will also draw capital from the profits gained by the newly built industries. I see a lot of familiar faces here in the audience. And these achievements will be unthinkable without your help, without your recommendations, without your references to best international practices, as it was these practices which have become the foundation for our work. And here we are making the presentation of all these achievements, and we would like to know your feedback. As on the basis of this feedback, we will be refining our system. It is impossible to become competitive while standing. In order to be competitive, you need to keep moving. And this is what we are doing. We're trying to do our best in order to help you to achieve success in your business in Far East. It is our job to help you. And I do hope that the attendees of the First Economic Forum would like to become residents of the priority development areas, would like to become residents of Vladivostok free port, or would like to get some subsidy from the Far East Foundation. Here we have contact numbers for the officials of the ministry who will be in permanent contact with you, and rest assured that they will get back to you within 24 hours after you make a request. If you don't get a response, please don't hesitate to contact me directly, but I do hope that you will not have any reasons to do this. But you will contact me for a positive reason, and I'll appreciate all these investment projects from your side regarding Far East development. Thank you very much for your attention. Alexander, thank you very much for your presentation. Now, they only have 24-hour limit, and so they have to comply with that. But you have mentioned feedback, and I would like to ask the audience a question. Let's have a vote. Let's have a vote regarding the key question. So the question is this: do you believe that this export-oriented model, which has become the basis for our development and which has just been spectacularly presented by Alexander Galushka, do you believe that this model is sustainable and optimal to ensure further development of this region? Let's have a vote. Please toggle voting mode. You all have these voting controls, so please push the respective button. So please push the button which relates to the answer which you think is correct. The options on the screen are, number 1 is yes, I believe the model is sustainable. Number 2, no, in order to achieve sustainable development, we require focus on internal demand. Well, take a look at the results. Well, generally, we can say that we have almost even split between the first and the third options. So we have a potential in terms of developing this business. But as we can see, we need to strike the right balance between internal and external demand, domestic and foreign demand. I think that these responses are pretty clear to what we have discussed during breakfast with some investors, and we said that we need to work along the lines of a balanced model. But I would like to ask the question to the governor of Khabarovsky area. The minister has just presented a variety of tools which are available for you to help the investors. All these tools have just been approved in 2015, so these are newly developed mechanisms. And so here is my question to you. I know that on the territory of Khabarovsky region you have 2 priority development territories, and this priority development territory status is a newly developed framework. And can you give us your idea as to how far away are these territories yet from being ready to accept investment? We work together with the Ministry for Development of Far East, and we also did some work in parallel with them, trying to find investors. So tremendous work has been done. I think it is unprecedented work in the history of the Far East development. And here we see emergence of a new economic policy, a new economic line in the policy which is supported by our president. Khabarovsky region was the first region to embark on these investment projects. All the tools which are mentioned by Alexandra are working, surprising as it might be, but they are working. Before investor shows up, he requests a land parcel, and then it took us 3 years to get approval. Now we already have 8 requests for land parcels, which have already been filed, and land parcels will be allocated in December this year already. If you reply now, you will also get an approved land parcel in December. So all the regulatory framework and regulatory documents are working. Currently, we have real investors who would like to work on these projects in agricultural business. We have a number of greenhouses which are under construction. We have a foreign investor from Japan. We have a Russian investor for this project. But more importantly, we offer investors an opportunity to participate in higher added value product production. In Komsomolsk-na-Amur, we suggest that they participate, they invest into our air building, plane building industry and shipbuilding industry. And right now we are working on preparing the project, preparing the land parcel. We are ready to accommodate more investors. And the value of these projects is around 50 billion rubles at the moment. They are about to create 6,000 jobs, and they will yield up to 20 billion of taxes within the nearest 10 years. 23 projects have already been completed for the implementation, and the total value of them is up to 60 billion rubles. A variety of projects is already underway in various fields, and just yesterday we signed 5 contracts, 2 memoranda of intentions. One of them relates to construction of a sugar processing plant. So all this regulatory framework has its effect. It has a positive impact on the projects, on the intention of investors to participate. So we have capacity to accommodate more investment in our region. We have created the cluster-based educational system, technical education and higher education. We have 23 colleges on the territory of our region, and they are ready to support any kind of manufacturing that you would like to invest in, manufacturing of higher added value products. You would be surprised that we can produce cars in Khabarovsky region, but we also produce all sorts of aircraft, both military and civil aircraft. We possess oil reserves. We have metal processing industries. We have laid the foundation to ensure the stable flow of educated and trained people for any kind of an industry. And these people have already started this work. Thank you very much. And as we can see, and it doesn't happen very often in our country, the laws have been passed, but not only have they been passed, but they started to work, and federal authorities and local authorities work in an extremely close contact, which is a prerequisite for success. I would like to ask my next question to a very important person. It's a guest of our forum, Sultan Ahmed bin Sulaim, the head of the board of DP World. DP World represents Dubai Port and 65 other ports across the world which it operates. Has more than 30,000 people, has extensive experience in investing in setting up cutting-edge handling capacities. Currently, one of the projects is underway on the river of Thames, and you have invested up to 3 billion into setting up new logistics and port center. Not only you manage the ports, but I was astonished to find out during our first meeting that you operate in the terms of free economic area in Dubai, Jebel Ali free economic zone, and more than 45,000 companies currently work in this free economic area. And you started from scratch. In a piece of desert, nobody believed that there is any kind of demand for any sort of business. Your only competitive advantage was a vast amount of sand. And when you started it in 1980s, there were a lot of skeptics who scorned upon this project. The more people scorned over your project rather than supported it. Could you please give me your idea? So what is your take on the chances of Far East to become a prosperous land, or an area which is capable of manufacturing all sorts of products, an area which can be successfully converted into free economic zone? And what do you think about the factors which have been just presented by the minister? Are these conditions enough in order for you, for example, to start investing into development of Port of Vladivostok or other areas in the Far East?
Thank you very much. I am very honored to attend this important summit. We have over 30 years experience in developing, building, and establishing one of the most successful free zones in Dubai. Jebel Free Zone today is the most successful with investment of most of the 500 Fortune companies in the world are already in Jebel Ali. When you talk about Far East and you talk about Vladivostok, most of the export in the world comes from the Far East. So you have a better advantage than us because we are not in an export area. We are intermediary in Dubai. Here you are where the production is. And from Vladivostok to Europe is the same from China to Europe, almost. You have a better advantage with the rail link that's connected. In my opinion, I looked carefully at the opportunities here after listening also to the minister. He confirmed many of the perceptions I have. This place has a great potential. There are untapped possibilities and big possibility to unlock the capabilities of this place. With all the production facilities around you. China is already looking for location other than China for their export. The Far East is a huge market. And the advantage here in Vladivostok, you have the energy, which is big advantage. You have a very reliable rail. It's the most advanced and well-connected rail to Europe. 2 months ago, the first train carrying containers from China reached Europe in about 14 days. By sea, it takes about 42 days. Already, there's an advantage. I believe, in addition to the law and regulation, there should be advantages in energy. Energy costs should be given at an advantage for people. The other advantage is the land possibility. There is a lot of land available here. So you can really develop and design something in what you have in your mind. We are very interested in this place. We looked at it and we believe it's going to be very successful.
Спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. Thank you. Is there any tangible way to convert your interest into actual investment? Are you missing some information at the moment? Or what kind of support you would like to get straight away from the minister in order to say, I'm ready to invest tomorrow?
I will have a team of my technical people. They should be coming maybe next week or the week after. We have identified 3 locations already in Vladivostok. I am going to visit them tomorrow myself to see. We're going to have our team coming here. We're going to talk to the minister more about our concrete ideas of what we want to do. Our interest is a port and free zone together. Port-centric is very important for us.
Окей, спасибо большое.
Thank you very much. Thank you. And our esteemed guest has just mentioned that we in fact have 3 issues which must be tackled before this place, which has enormous potential, will be converted into a lucrative area which will be drawing investment in. So low bureaucracy, railway connectivity, and availability of railways sharply reduces the transit time of cargo from Asia to Europe and cost of energy, or cost of electricity. I would like to start with the first issue. We have Oleg Belozorov, who is the newly appointed head of Russian railways, and I think is the most wanted person here in the Far East, because we call this region Far East because in fact it is located really far away from the central part of Russia. And we believe that there were 2 hot issues in Vladivostok all the time. The tariffs for the railroad transportation, bridge to Sakhalin, and railroad capacity. If you can commit to resolving at least one of these issues, then we can deem this forum to be a success. Thank you very much. It is a great honor for me to speak now at the plenary session. And I would like to say that Russian railways have always paid enormous attention to the Far Eastern region. And now this attention is getting even more pointed, and for objective economic reasons. As regardless of the overall economic situation, we see the amount of cargo going to the Far East is growing. It reached 82 million tons in 2014 and grew by 14%. And as far as this year is concerned, our growth is 6%. And generally, cargo transportation overall for the country has reduced a little bit. As we have already mentioned today, we are planning to complete one of our projects on time, and by 2018 we will further expand our BAM and Trans-Siberian Railroad. We have plans to ensure the transportation links alongside Primorye 1 and Primorye 2 corridors. These projects have already been mentioned today. I would like to say that not only we will focus on improving our infrastructure and providing reliable transportation service, but another thing that we are doing, we are expanding our contact base in relation to transportation and logistics infrastructure. We are currently in process of signing new contracts, and just yesterday in China we signed a memorandum of intentions with Incoport, one of Chinese companies, currently our partner in the business of carrying up to 2,000 containers from China to Europe. After this memorandum being signed, the signing of this memorandum will mean the project for construction of logistics hub in the Moscow region. And I have a number of my colleagues here today to talk with potential partners. They're all interested in getting Vladivostok port further developed. They're all interested in reviewing opportunities for investment on the on the coastal side of our region. I would like to answer your two questions.
So with our colleagues, we set priority objectives. First of all, to clarify our tariffs. We understand that right now they're somewhat obsolete, they should be updated, and we plan perhaps in a year and a half, in the first 3 months, to develop a serious concept, a new concept, to develop new tariffs. At the same time, it will affect general approaches in terms of cargo shipments from Far East. I'm sure we will accelerate working on it. And with regard to construction of that bridge, you asked that question. I think we have to, we need to take a different look at this, more closely considering this economic forum. If we approach that project as a project removed in time, sometime in faraway future, but now in current discussions, I think it's not in far future anymore. We develop we do a feasibility study for it, and I think with these active involvement, I think it's a very realistic project in the nearest future. And I would like to mention that Russian railways, as it should be, will be locomotive of the development of economy in Far East, and we will pull the rest of you with us. I think we should applaud, give a hand to this. After that speech, Oleg Kožemyaka, he's here. I think your authority will be on the rise in Sakhalin, so he'll meet you and he'll be accompanying you in all of your trips. So that's a great news what you just said. We have a great example. One of the Sibur, which is one of the most developed Russian companies that started investments and in processing our raw materials to diversify our economy, to make it our competitive advantage. And Mr. Konov, president of Sibur, he's here with us. I would like to hear from him about their plans to develop gas processing and gas chemistry here in Far East. Thank you very much, dear colleagues. I work in the industry that has two faces, and both faces are not really known to the general public. One face is that we buy accompanying products of oil and gas production, accompanying, so for petrochemical uses, and then we also produce products that have very difficult names to pronounce, but they're used very widely in all industries. I'm pretty sure that in this room, if we look at it, 60% of materials used here come from petrochemistry. So when we talk about automotive industry, that's a good example, in fact. So synthetic materials are used more and more often. It used to be 10 kilograms per car, now it's hundreds of kilograms per car. So we satisfy that demand on the one hand, at the same time we follow the development of oil and gas industry and petrochemistry and gas chemistry. They're coming to Far East is because energy policy of Russia has shifted to, because more energy resources will be supplied to Asia-Pacific countries. Speaking of projects, or the project of Sibur, it's a logical continuation of the Gazprom project to develop Chuninsky field, to build the power of Siberia pipeline. So when at the end of the route in the Russian Federation, and in 2020 the first phase will be commissioned, we'll have a gas processing plant, and those components produced there, we will have gas chemical plants, polymers and other products. What makes these projects, what makes this project different from what we have in Sibur, in the European part of Russia? In European Russia, in Western Siberia, which is a traditional oil and gas region. So this is where we got started, and we sell products wherever there's a need. So in the European part of Russia, to Europe, and somewhat to Asia. The project in Far East, which is being implemented, its concept is very different. This is to supply products to other markets or to support local industries in Far East. And we know that the population here is quite small. So one of our objectives is to help industries that can consume our products to develop their capacities, not only to process and create synthetic materials, but also produce products that have export potential, like with solars, polymer production. Like Mr. Shevtsov mentioned, it's an opportunity to scale growth and export products. And one issue that we should pay attention to is to create manufacturing in the regions and cities which are not yet ready for them. So a large gas chemical plant, we will need thousands of people. It's jobs, and we need to find qualified people and train them. And they should be trained, they should go to the existing sites. And so also peak loads on those. So when we talk about tens of billions of dollars of investments, it's thousands of construction workers that will be involved in the projects. So it's a pretty complicated part of the project implementation, and besides new opportunities that come with investments, there's also tension that arises when the project is implemented. Another topic: when you work in a new territory that you know little about, we need to know about conditions. We need to focus activities to support new investment projects. What has been done with the law on priority development territories. So it's not so much about financial support, but the one-stop shop principle and comprehensive support for projects from land plots to registration, to getting documents, to training our people, etc. If another difficult topic, how quickly do you want to move forward, to advance? Sometimes lack of ideas or lack of funds are not the barrier. Sometimes doing several projects at the same time, simultaneous and parallel, is what makes it complicated. Sometimes our plans are too much for us to handle. We do not know how to go about them. So we need our focus. Maintaining focus should be important, so we should make consistent steps to use other industries to have a multiplying effect. If you want just to have a quick project, perhaps most equipment will not be produced here, it will be imported, and some opportunities will be missed. If we want to implement long-term plans, we can do many things in parallel and develop other industries at the same time and support them with investments. So this balance and speed should be well picked, and sequence should be well decided. So can we simultaneously handle several projects? So do you think it's I think we need to think about it together. Thank you very much for that. These are very good things to think about. One clarifying issue, where do you plan to build your plant? And you mentioned tens of billions of dollars, so that sounds a lot. So what? So tell us which land plot and about investments. When I talk about gas processing, that gas chemical plants, I'm talking about Amur region, where the final point of power of Siberia is, and before gas goes to China. So, sufficiently far from the Vostochny cosmodrome, so those gas processing plant by Gazprom, and Sibur is also building their plant. So we talk about over $20 billion. So the governor left Amur region because of that, and he is now in Sakhalin. Thank you very much for that. Of course, that's a very impressive investment project, and wish you all the luck. Hopefully you'll have the strength. It's very important to find the balance that you mentioned, because we would like for this large construction project to localize, it should help localize productions and create jobs. I would like to ask the last question to our expert and colleague who came here from Brazil, Dr. Roberto Alvarez. He's executive director of the Global Federation of Competitiveness Councils. This organization is involved in studies of competitiveness of different countries and regions. Mr. Alvarez is a well-known expert in competitiveness. He has his own methods of assessing how to do it effectively. He's a person who, on the one hand, is a scientist, on the other hand, he is a businessman. He has good entrepreneurial experience, and he also worked in the government. He used to be deputy head of the Brazilian Development Agency. Brazil is a very complementary country compared to Russia in terms of objectives, development objectives, etc., etc. Mr. Alvarez, can I ask you, what is your vision? How competitive this region can be? How do you estimate its competitiveness, and what critical points, from your perspectives, have you seen? You've heard it all pretty much today in terms of the measures taken by our government to develop this region. Maybe something is lacking. Do you think these measures will work?
Thank you. Thank you so much for your question, Mr. Griffin. Thank you so much for the invitation to be here today. It's really great to see the developments on the ground and to have a chance to interact and work with all of you. My organization has members coming from 25 countries today. And as Minister Garushka said, everybody is running. This is a race. Somewhere around the globe, leaders like you are meeting today to talk about the same things, how to make their regions and their countries more competitive. Yeah. And this is really an interplay between cost and value in some way. And I think that most of the things here were really discussed today are really important, and I wanted to share a few ideas with you. A first initial idea is really that food, water, and energy are key essential items for the globe, and they will be in the years to come. And there are lots of opportunities. I think you asked how we measure competitiveness. One of the things that we have developed at the GFCC is what we call the GFCC Competitiveness Decoder, and we have included there a dimension on future growth that exactly tries to capture those elements that were highlighted by Minister Garushka recently. It's really hard to say, and I personally don't believe that there is such a thing like the one best model in the globe. There are different realities, but it's really important to in some way to approach that as a learning process. That's something that I've been trying to do from a GFCC perspective. And there are 5 items that I believe are important items considering the experience of our own membership and considering, let's say, what's happening around the globe. The first is that the most successful trajectories, they're really dynamic trajectories with moving targets in terms of industries around the globe. So as Mr. Konov just mentioned, the sequence of different industries, different investments, different priorities is a key issue for developments like that. A second point is really related to the question that you raised in this panel. Should developments like this be oriented towards the internal consumption market or towards the outside market? Well, I think there are 2 different models that we in some way could highlight here. The experience in the region, we had a great discussion yesterday in the panel about developments like this in Asia. Yeah, and the Korean instance, for instance, the example is really about developing capabilities targeted global markets. Yeah. In the Brazilian case, or in Brazil, we have a different reality. We implemented economic development spaces in the country, mostly targeting the internal consumption market. And we didn't reach the full potential of that because of that choice. That's my personal take. So this balance between inward-looking or outward-looking, let's say, it's really a critical issue. Which are the capabilities that you are developing to be competitive in the global landscape? A third thing is about regulation. Institutions really matter. We heard a lot, so I think this is something that's really being addressed here. And a key issue in that space is coordination. And once again, I can mention the Brazilian case. In foreign trade processes in Brazil, there are 37 different government organizations that have a say. So streamlining that, it's a key issue for everybody around the globe, and I think that's something that is in your agenda here, and you've been addressing that. And 2 final ideas here, and that is, once again, this balance between cost efficiency and value creation. More and more, let's say, regions and places that want to be competitive, they're positioning themselves in the knowledge economy space, as President Putin has mentioned in his speech. Yeah. So developing those capabilities as moving forward over time will be surely a key issue for all countries. Yeah. And finally, for those things to happen, leadership is needed. Yeah. So I think that those are 5 learnings from global experience that I just want to highlight.
Thank you very much. That was very important to hear. I think that should be very helpful to take into account the experience of your organization in 26 participating countries. Sergey, I would like to ask you, we talked a lot about, it was very important to train people, and with so many projects, it becomes obvious that simultaneously they'll be implemented. At the same time, it's obvious there'll be a lack of qualified people. They created agency for human potential development. It sounds very ambitious, but so far it's not clear how will you deal with this problem to attract or to train qualified personnel. And what is this agency all about? Thank you. Speaking of the legal entity, it's autonomous non-commercial organization established by the Russian government, and I would like to highlight the government discussed it in a very... We had some hot debates and we discussed every detail. So I can tell you that in the Ministry of Labor, we had 20 pages of points of disagreement with my colleague, Mr. Topilin. For 2 hours, we talked to each other to agree on all those contradictions. Because system is interrelated. It's all related to human capital. In private sector, in the government sector, but where do you find the connecting point, the pivot, so that you can provide conditions to those people to make sure they are willing to come to work in Far East? We don't have it. Maybe you need subsidized mortgage rates, or maybe help people get started. It's there, but it's all over the place. Nobody put it all together. Nobody offered all of that to a specific person. Dmitry Kononov offers a pay, a salary, but what about the rest of it? If we lack such people with in this profession, where do we find them? How do we attract them? And as many as we need. We don't want people coming here to work for a couple of months and then leave in shifts. We need people to move here to live. So this agency needs to fulfill this function, to fill the gaps in the government system and in the private sector. If you come to HR agency, they will propose people to come here to work in shifts, and so come and go. So we would like to fill that gap.
Thank you very much. There is one remaining question, how we can do this. I don't quite see yet how you can do that, but I do hope that this new Human Potential Development Agency will start operating shortly, and from then on we'll have a clear picture how it's going to work. If you have time, I can brief you in a more detailed way on that. Thank you very much. We have been working for an hour and 10 minutes already, and we have 10 minutes before the end of our session, and I would like to give you a chance to ask questions. I think we have more or less concise picture regarding the plans of the government to develop Far Eastern region, regarding the plans of investors to participate, actual investors and would-be investors. Do you have any questions regarding establishing proper investment environment, lowering bureaucratic barriers, or any other questions? You have a unique opportunity to speak in front of such an audience.
My name is Kim Sik from Korea. I'd like to ask a question to Minister Galushka regarding the investment incentive. If any foreign investor come and invest in the region of a special economic zone, could we regard it as a company belongs to the Eurasian Economic Union? Could we sell this product duty-free without custom to Eurasian Economic Union countries?
If you import equipment or raw materials for further processing, then customs duties will not apply. And this is what the free trade zone mode is about. And you will be able to sell your products on the territory of 5 countries which form the Eurasian Economic Union. By all means, you will be able to.
It's a great decision. I appreciate your answer.
Thank you very much. Any other questions? I have a question. My name is Titov, and in the parliament I'm responsible for protecting the rights of entrepreneurs. And my question is to Alexander Galushka. We actively work here in the Far East, trying to protect interests of businessmen and entrepreneurs, and we have a lot of requests. Some of them relate to administrative governmental bodies, some of them relate to law enforcement bodies. The priority development area framework, I think, is a point of interest for all the foreign investors, and they all want to know whether that will help to lower administrative barriers and ease some other bureaucratic obstacles. So what kind of change we're planning to expect from the standpoint of protecting interests of entrepreneurs and business people? Thank you very much. Thank you very much for the question, and I'm delighted to see your representatives actively working in our region. You're very good people, they're very effective, and we work in cooperation with them, and they help us a lot. And we intend to keep working with them in future. Regarding property right protection and administrative procedures and barriers, please excuse me if I will be repeating myself, but I will give you just a highlight. If investor runs into a problem with governmental bodies, he will have to apply to court. And should he want to, he has an opportunity to have a lawsuit being filed to court by the management company, which is 100% owned by the government of the Russian Federation. So it will not be investor showing up in court. It will be the governmental management company standing in for the investor in court. Any check instigated by a supervising body or supervising authority will be subject for approval by the Ministry of Far East Development. Now, regarding the free port of Vladivostok, actually, we mean that you will be crossing the border almost in no time. So instead of phytosanitary, border control, customs control, transportation control, all sorts of other controls that you used to face on the border, under the law, we are setting up an integrated governmental body, one point of contact regarding all these checks and controls. This system will be supervised by the Vice Premier of the government of the Russian Federation. And this is the federal executive body, and it has... And your humble servant is actively participating in the work of this body now, and I would like to assure you that we are focused on applying best legal practices. And I'm sure the only question is which motivation we have, which intention we have when we do this work. You keep mentioning some exceptional mechanisms and priority development areas. I understand that priority development areas are your babies and you're planning to protect them. But the point made here was I'm not getting calls from priority development areas. I'm getting calls about violation of my rights from other areas. So what do we do in this case? So what do we do with the remaining 99% of this territory? Because a lot of events will be happening there. Can these people call you? This is the system that we are working on at the moment. This is exactly what we are trying to do. But for the purpose of being objective, I would like to draw your attention to the following thing. Free port of Vladivostok is 1.5 million people living in Vladivostok, out of 6.5 million living in the Far East. But this is the area of concentration of Far Eastern economic potential. So territory-wise, priority development area are minor as if you compare it to overall territory. But if you take economic potential, it will be far more than 1%. And we gradually try to expand these practices and expand their scope so that they will go beyond the borders of priority development areas. So, okay, so what happens before you expand these practices? We are working along this line at the moment to get in close cooperation with the regional authorities and with the plenipotentiary representative of the president. Just recently, another person was appointed as an acting plenipotentiary representative who was charged with the task to supervise these things, and our interaction with law enforcement bodies falls into the scope of responsibility of the plenipotentiary representative. But we are working on these things as one team. tomorrow, together with the presidential aide, Andrei Belousov, and a number of governors will have a roundtable discussion at which we will review specific cases which highlight the issues which are faced by our businessmen in the Far East. Thank you very much. Dear colleagues, do you have any other questions? My name is Hong Wei, and I'm from China. China is currently developing industry in other countries and tries to foster industrial development in other countries. My name is to Mr. Gref. As we know, Sberbank is the largest banking structure in Russia. And investment in Far East is, by all means, a very important point. But we would like to know whether Sberbank is planning to participate in these activities and what are your plans. Thank you very much for the question. I will give you a brief and quick answer, but quite specific. Yes, we are planning to participate and we are planning to support investment. If your question refers to whether you can get support for your investment, yes, we will review any sort of investment project which is planned for the Far Eastern territory, and we have and the head of our Far Eastern Bank, Evgeny Titov, is responsible for this. You can address him directly. He is based in Khabarovsk. It is easy to define his electronic address because his electronic address is made of first two letters of his first name and patronymic name and then family name. So you feel free to meet him now or feel free to contact him. We will be pleased to provide support to Chinese investors, and we are ready to play a more active role in this field by means of providing support to Chinese, Korean and Japanese investors, because we understand that they don't feel themselves comfortable in a different language environment. So we are ready to help them to adapt so that you feel yourself comfortable here. Do you have any other questions? I can take one more question. Good afternoon. And Khabarovsky manufacturing plant of bricks and concrete blocks. Domin Dmitry. As far as I understand, we have an excellent mechanism for attracting investment, but the would-be investors and current investors, they face a set of same issues which have to be tackled. One of these issues is tariff regulation problem. We are in a unique situation in Khabarovsk area. Russian companies on Russian territory over the course of manufacturing Russian products pay for gas in dollars. Why does this happen? Because Gazprom Gazораспределение has a contract with ExxonMobil, which is in effect until 2025, and the price for gas is linked to the price of oil on Tokyo Exchange. In this particular case, it is extremely difficult to work on substitution of imported products where you are absolutely unaware of the price for your main raw material in the next month. Also, there are two HPPs, or two power stations in Khabarovsk area which use gas for producing electricity, and the cost of electricity has gone up by 25%. So given this environment, it is extremely difficult to build long-term plans and build strategy. Are there any tools which are currently available and which can help to resolve these issues and can help investors build long-term plans? Thank you very much for your question. So we have just listened to the President of the Russian Federation and his address to to the delegates. I think that the President has made it clear that he is well aware of this problem in the Far Eastern region. And not only he is aware of these high tariffs, which are currently in the Far East, but there is not the same problem everywhere in the Far East. And the President instructed his ministers to take into account the specificity of each region, and each region is in fact specific, as we found out with Rusgidro and Ministry of Energy of the Russian Federation. So the President has tasked his ministers to find solution for each of the areas. And this decision and this solution should result in calculating a cost of energy which will foster economic development and investment. And the President is getting regular updates on these issues. This is a very specific question. I would say it falls out of the scope of those issues which you have just highlighted. Mr. Putin is personally involved into this, and as far as this year is concerned, we have resolved the issue of tariffs for this year, for the time being, but for next year it has not been resolved yet. But I would say this is a kind of an extraordinary issue. It is not quite easy to resolve, but solutions are there. But they just said that they raised the cost of the price for energy by 25%, but this price will be subsidized. Okay. So with your permission, I would like to have the final voting. Please toggle the voting mode. So I would like you to vote for the in relation to the next question. After today's discussion, do you feel yourself more optimistic regarding the future prospects of the Far Eastern territory? So all the presentations which were made to you today, all the comments made by business people and experts, after listening to all these comments, do you feel yourself more optimistic? Please vote. Well, that's some result. When Ministry for Development of Far Eastern Territory was developed, I felt quite skeptical about it, because that's the last thing you would actually do. You would have more people and a different organizational structure to resolve a problem. But I'm delighted to say that I was wrong. The first 2 years of operating, the first 2 years in operation of Yuri Trutnev and Alexander Galushko demonstrated that this daily struggle and resulted in this daily struggle brought tangible results today. And I would like to thank public servants who are present here for this work. And the ball is in our court at the moment, and we will try to return this move by means of responding to all these initiatives. And when I visited Sakhalin, I remember meeting with the local people, and they told me a joke. They said, we only have 2 roads, one way forward and one way back. So I think that in the Far East we only have one road. We only have a way to move ahead, to reach our targets in relation to development for Far Eastern territory, in order to tap into unique potential of the Far Eastern region, in order to fully utilize the potential from the standpoint of natural resources abundance. Thank you very much. Thank you very much for sitting in during this long session. Thank you. Mr. Gref, thank you very much for being an excellent moderator for this session, as ever.